Bobby. I'm Joshua Dudley. I'm sure they told you.
Hey Josh, I'm Bobby. I'm sure they told you. Good to see you.
They did. They've been hounding me nonstop, Bobby. And honestly, I I'm not from your I'm not from a country music background, so it has been fascinating to sort of get to know you a little bit through all of your recorded. Well, not all of it. You got so much, but a smattering of your recorded media over the last couple of years. It's been a real pleasure and interesting and. You've done quite a lot of Forbes.com interviews as well, so I see I'm not your first one.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time today to hang out a little bit.
Yeah, well, thanks, Bobby. I gotta say, that's watching your show. That's really what it felt like. That's what hit me. You've been on the air for 27 years. Watching your show feels like hanging out with a friend. Like I listened to your, or actually, yeah, listened to your whole countdown of your favorite sitcoms, and I was like, right. This guy's close to well around my age of 40s, almost 50, married for a few years, just like me, and loves the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So I think we're going to get along just fine.
That's funny you watch that one. I am a massive nostalgia guy at this point in my life. We probably all are once we get to this age. It's
Sure.
just, and also it's just crazy how people love to consume anything nostalgia based. If it's music, if it's old television shows, it's odd how I was just looking at data a few minutes ago of, and this is so in the weeds, but just that stuff always works really well for me. Like I was looking at some podcast numbers, which I do every day, but it's like if I ever have my wife on, or if I ever do nostalgia, those tend to be as good or better than even the biggest guests.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I appreciate you spending a little time with that.
Thank you. And you hit on something I did want to ask about. A lot of what you do when you talk a lot is reference a lot of things. So how often, and you also talk about being authentic a lot, which is a hard skill to do when you're in front of the camera or the mic so often. When you're watching something or listening to something, how often do you think to yourself, "Oh, I'm doing this for the show, or I'm doing it for me"? Is there a difference, or you know what I mean?
There's become more of a difference since I got married. And
Yeah,
before I got married, it was everything that I could possibly do was for content,
yeah.
everything. Because I was alone and I didn't really have any other interests that I felt like that privacy was valued. My wife is not someone who loves being featured and she doesn't love being on shows or just generally she's not a big social media person. But she's kind of taught me that there are some things that we keep private. Even like we have a daughter, she's 5 months old today. And so, we haven't put her face on the internet. And if it were up to me, I probably would have live streamed the birth. So, there's been a lot of, I would even say growth in that where everything used to be on limits and now nothing's off limits, but there are certain things and we've had some really crazy security scares. And so because of that, some of the very detailed personal stuff will at least be time shifted. So, there's stuff that I'll just go, I should probably hold off and then use it 2 months later. So between security and having a wife, I've had to learn which buckets to put content in.
Hmm. I hear that. I was looking at your timeline. I got married a few months after you did, September 2021, actually, for the first time as well.
Yeah, we were COVID marriages, just trying to figure it out. We got lucky. We were right in that one area where it was like, okay, coast is clear, take your masks off, right before it happened on again. So we got very fortunate that ours happened and we had it on our property and it was great. But yeah, we got married during the pandemic, which was pretty wild looking back at all the little hoops. I'm sure you guys did too, and just kind of had to figure it out.
A lot, a lot of hoops. We had multiple weddings at different locations just because some people didn't want to get vaccinated, some people didn't want to travel. We tried to accommodate everybody much as we can. So, uh, man, so Bobby, I'm sure. Well, I'm sure you told the story a million times, but just me personally, I love this story about how you got on the air the first time because they ran out of staff. Could you just tell me? I mean, because I was thinking watching your comedy special, you had Dolly Parton on, and she loves to talk about her origin story. So I felt like you might like to talk about that too.
Yeah, I always wanted to do radio and television. I mean, since I was 5, 6 years old, in kindergarten. And my grandma raised me for a lot of my life, and she kept that, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I wanted to be on television, on the radio, and I wanted to do stand-up comedy. That's what I always wanted to do. I don't even know what it was like to not know what I wanted to be. And so as soon as I could actually get to a radio station, I mean, the first time I ever got on the air was 12 years old, and I begged to be on. I got put on Christmas Eve night, and I went on for one night, and it was the coolest thing. And I went on as Bobby the Barbarian, which was a terrible name, but it was a wrestler that I was watching because I
Mhm.
always have loved wrestling. And so, but when I was 17, almost 18 years old, I begged for a job at the local radio station, and they did not need anyone to actually be on the air, nor did I know how to be on the air. And so they hired me to run a Rick D's weekly countdown and clean up the lobby on Sunday. And but before my first ever lobby cleanup, one of the guys that worked on the weekends was fired for stealing station equipment. So out of necessity, they threw me on, and they gave me the name Bobby Bones. They actually gave me two options, Bobby Z or Bobby Bones, and I thought they were both terrible names. And I settled on Bones because it sounded at least kind of like a human, maybe a pirate, yeah, maybe a dentist,
Mhm.
doctor. I didn't know, but I went on as Bobby Bones on a weeknight at midnight, and that was the first time I was ever on the air because I was lucky enough to be around when someone was fired.
Uh, and I noticed you said it made you sound like a human, and I've seen that in a couple of your interviews, especially like that Rolling Stone one recently. You said he's like a real human. Was that because you felt grown up maybe that people weren't like real humans a lot?
I felt like it wasn't just a letter that was abbreviating for something. I felt that of the two options, I liked the alliteration and it was a first and a last name. But and the irony of it all is, like, I've spent my entire career trying to be as honest and authentic, not relatable, but at least truthful as possible. And to do that with a fake name has always felt disingenuous.
Wow.
But I've never acted like it's my real name, though. My wife does not go by Bones. Like she would rather stick a fork in her eye than somebody to call her Caitlin Bones because I mean it is my performer name, but her name on Instagram is Caitlin Estel. And so I don't hide from it. It's always been odd that me trying to be as honest and human as I can possibly be that I've always used a stage name. So that's always felt a little clunky. But now, for the most part, everybody knows Eminem's name is Marshall Mathers. Everybody knows Snoop Dogg's name is Calvin. My real name's not Bones, but I chose it early on because at least it kind of felt like a real life human being, more so than just a letter abbreviation. I never wanted to be an abbreviated personality. I never wanted to be some. I wanted to be somebody that had a great voice and did traditional radio talk. I just wasn't. I didn't have that. I tried so hard to be that guy. I would affect my voice and I would try to emulate, other DJs,
Like
and that
Casey
never.
Kasem, for instance.
All Rick Dees, Casey Kasem, anybody that was on the air, even in my hometown or Little Rock, they all had that great DJ voice. And I tried so hard for years. I was not good at it. I couldn't do it. So the way that I found to be successful wasn't because I had some idea of, oh, this is how I'm going to do it. It was mostly out of necessity because I couldn't get it to work the way that I was trying to do it. So yeah, that's where Bobby Bones came from. And I was talking about this morning, even on my Instagram. People, a guy had said, "Oh, hey, this is what Bobby Jones looks like." So I often get called that a lot as well. And in 2017, I was inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame, which is a great honor. I'm the youngest person to ever be inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame. And I go in and, just to keep me humble and obviously not on purpose, when they introduced me, it was as Bobby Jones. So it wasn't my real name. It wasn't even my stage name. It was Bobby Jones. So I've had quite the fun relationship with my name in general, but that's how I got it.
Thank you for that, Bobby. And that's what you had to be successful, you said back then, but you've been doing this for 27 years, I guess, consecutively. So what do you think success looks like to you now?
Being able to say no to something. I mean, that's success at this point is for so long I wanted and I would say yes to anything and everything for a lot of reasons. I think at first it was to pay the bills. Second, it was to try to prove my worth. I don't feel that way anymore, mostly because I can pay the bills. I've been lucky enough to be successful enough to I'm good. I have plenty of money. But I've never been money motivated. And I think that an advantage of coming from so little is I never had to leave comfortable. So I never had anything to lose ever. I never felt I'm so fortunate. And I used to be so resentful of that came from a pretty hard background and trailer park and no, and my mom was a drug addict. I never had a dad and I would be angry at that. As I've gotten older, I am not anymore. Actually, I see that as something that, man, once I got through to the other side, I was so lucky to be able to have that because again, I didn't have to take a job to stay comfortable. I didn't need to take a job to keep living a certain way. Everything I was doing was bonus. So I could be poor, no problem. And so I just chased. And that's been pretty much the story of my career is I just said yes to everything. But now the success in me is if I want to say no to something, I absolutely can. And I don't worry that I'm not enough anymore. And I think that's through two things. One, therapy. So more than success, it's therapy first. And then two, having done things successful enough times to know that it's it can work out if I want it to. I definitely live in an imposter syndrome bubble, but just the muscle memory of doing enough things and having it go right allows me to have some freedom that if I do choose to go into something, I can figure it out and hopefully make it go right.
Yeah, you certainly did a lot of that on the comedy tour. I got to see part of that today as well. How much fun was that? And was that your first your first big attempt at comedy besides doing one-offs?
I started doing stand up to open for myself, which
Hmm.
is kind of a lucky way to do it. I had and still do have a comedy duo that we play music, and we were playing festivals and we were playing theaters, and it was called The Raging Idiots, and it was me and my best friend Eddie, who's on my morning show. And at first, Eddie and I just were playing these music comedy shows and donating all the money, and our goal was $1 million. If we can make it to $1 million, like that was success. And we were just playing, I mean, really restaurants in really small clubs and just slowly making money and donating it to St. Jude. And we were almost at 1 million and we set a date at the Ryman and we called it the $1 million show. And it was going to be like the end. We made $1 million, but before we got to that date, which was like 4 months later, our show started getting bigger, our tickets started selling more, and we had made $2 million. And so we did the $1 million show every year. This last year we didn't because my daughter was born, so we had to punt this year. But we've done it probably 8 or 9 years. I'm not sure on the exact date. And all these artists from Nashville would show up. So the Raging Idiots started to be this band that kind of had built momentum, and we were okay to pretty good, but we had really good momentum. I'd signed a record deal at some point along the way, and uh, we needed an opener, and I had always like flirted with comedy and done small stints here and there, and had written a lot, and heck, had written for other people doing award shows, but had never really tackled it myself. So I started opening for myself, and the real fun for me there was if I was bombing, I could just go like, "All right, the Raging Idiot's coming up next." I could walk off at any time, So I had complete freedom to try to get as good as I could. And finally, I just kind of ripped the band-aid off and said, I'm going to go and tour doing stand-up. And I was obviously pretty bad at first, but I had the luxury of playing theaters immediately. So I have a lot of friends that are way better at this than me that had to come up the really hard way in comedy, and they didn't have that luxury. I was fortunate enough to, when I started doing comedy straight away, I was playing 2 and 3 thousand person rooms. And I was able to get better with my own people watching, which is also a luxury because they were coming to see me. It wasn't like I was having to grind through the comedy clubs like my friends have had to do. So I think at my best, I got to be about a B minus at my absolute best. but I was so dedicated to it. And for me, I wanted to put a bow on it and I wanted to just record a special, but I knew my strength wasn't going to be an hour of straight ahead nonstop jokes. So I wanted to really incorporate my story into the comedy and at times put in some, hopefully, some, motivating, but very practical life lesson things that I've learned. And
Yeah.
so we shot it. My sister-in-law directed it, and she's fantastic. She lives in LA. And we didn't know if anybody was going to buy it, and CMT did. And so that was pretty cool. And it did its thing. And I've had people, the weirdest thing is it doesn't happen a lot, but when people will stop me to say they just saw that special and think that I'm a full-time comedian, like
Right.
that's odd because I can usually tell where somebody know what they know me from by how old they are, if they're a man or a woman, where they approach me. It could be Idol or Dancing with the Stars or one of my own TV shows or the radio show. But when people come up and go, "Hey, you're the comedian I saw," I think they're messing with me because, I toured for like about th 3.5 years doing stand up and did the special, but I don't feel like I'm a real comedian, kind of a fake comedian, but I worked really hard at it. And it was one of the more exciting things that I've ever done because I went up with a bare canvas and it's the hardest thing I've ever, dancing is the hardest. It's the second hardest thing I've ever done because you go up and it's just you and there's nothing else. So yeah, that was very satisfying and it was extremely hard. And I'm proud of how it came out. I haven't really toured much since because, my wife, she got pregnant. We had a baby. We've talked about some new iterations. I've been writing a lot, but with all the podcasts that I'm doing now, there's no air. I have to like reprioritize in some way.
I get it. I was interviewing another podcast host, Sam Sanders, recently, and he said his biggest strength was, he had to focus on his biggest strengths. Like he's funny, but like you said, he probably would have called himself a B minus too. He's not going to be the funniest guy out there. He's going to ask try to ask the best questions. So I'm sure you focus on your strengths too. And what would you say your biggest strength is?
Listening and not being afraid of silence. I think I've been doing this a long time now. This is very outlier-ish, meaning 10,000 hours. And you've probably heard a million people tell you this, but I've just done so many conversations with so many people at so many levels, meaning their levels and mine, that I'm so comfortable going into any interview because I've had it go tragically wrong and somehow it's come out okay so many times that I'm very comfortable with sitting in silence for a second. So I walk in wholly prepared, but with nothing. Because I feel like for me, that's the balance of like I have Leanne Morgan in 30 minutes coming over. I had Mumford and Sons 2 days ago
Yeah.
over here. And so I'm doing different types of people, and I feel like I know enough about both of them that I don't need to walk in with notes, but I'm also not Larry Kinging it where I don't know anything. Like I am
Sure.
investing myself wholly into it. But once I'm in, I'm just relying on the work that I've done to get ready for that specific person, but also to get ready for any specific person because I've done this for so long. And
Yeah.
I'm so comfortable with listening to their answers and following up with the question based on what they're saying right now that if I have to sit there quiet for a second to figure out what I want to do, I'm okay with that. So I think my strength now is just it's been repetition. It's just getting in reps and having done it so many times and also just being curious. Like I'm so interested in how people got here. It's kind of like driving through a town or like a street where all the rich people live and their houses are so big and you just want to go knock on the door and go like, "How did you do this? Like this house is so big. How do you have this house?" And like I kind of feel that curiosity toward almost everybody and not just celebrities or people that are really good at their craft in this space. But I think still having that curiosity and not being jaded, I think that ends up being a strength of mine as well.
Mhm. I think so too. I was watching you and I kept thinking, is this guy Peter Parker or the guy next door? I can't figure it out. But you know, uh um oh shoot.
So
I lost what I was going to say, Bobby. But
I like your glasses though. They're solid
thank you.
reds. I'll
Thank
say
you.
that.
That I did definitely put on for you. I was like, this guy wears glasses. Oh, that's what I was going to ask you about. Do you feel like that's part of your identity? Like you never thought about LASIK or anything, the glasses at this point.
My right eye doesn't work. It's never worked. I have 8% vision in my right eye. So,
Wow.
but I've never not been deficient. So I don't know what it's like to have two working eyes. I think it'd be way worse if I had two working eyes and all of a sudden one of them was taken away. I was born like this. And so my right eye's never worked. My left eye's been my good eye. And forever, my doctor, even as a young kid, was, hey, you need to wear glasses to protect your good eye because there's nothing you can do for my bad eye. And so I listened. I wore a patch as a kid for a while. You can only do that. You can only get beat up so many times for being a pirate kid before you're just out. And then once I got a little smarter, I started wearing glasses again. But I am as generic looking as you could possibly be. If you were to say, draw me a generic looking Caucasian male, that it would be me. And so I like to have distinct things about me as just a brand in general. So I wore the glasses, very dark rim, because I love Weezer and I love Buddy Holly.
I literally was thinking about Weezer with the glasses. Yeah.
Those are two of my favorites because I was always a nerdy kid and I felt like that's two nerds who were super cool. Like they found their own way to do it. So I started wearing these glasses. But I very much like to brand things even if no one notices. For example, the only thing that I've wore at work for over 2 years is a cardigan. I've only worn cardigans for over 2+ years. Just because one, it's easy because I know what I'm going to wear every single day. And two, it is just a fraction of something that hopefully people know me for. I have no cardigan deal, I have no glasses deal, but everybody is screaming for attention or wanting people to remember them for something. So hopefully it's what I stand for, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. But if it just is the dude in dark glasses and a cardigan, if that's all it is, I'll even take that. So it's very much strategic, but I am blind in one eye, so I do need the glasses.
Good to know. I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad you got glasses that work for you. So, since you've been doing this for so long with this level of repetition, was it any kind of a challenge at all to move into this new video focused world we're in now?
No, I mean I've been podcasting just in general since 2005. You
Yeah.
know, I'm very fortunate that I don't think that I have been ahead of the curve in like having some crazy knowledge of the industry. I think when I started, I was really young and I was fortunate to be really young because I just started doing what I was doing in my real life. So as I was podcasting or using digital media before most people were, it wasn't again because I was going, I'm predicting this in the future. It was because I was 23 and 24 years old. And so I started podcasting way back then. We started really focusing heavy on video probably about 10 years ago, but you're right. Now it is such an investment and it's one that I have like 11 shows on my podcast network that
Ooh,
it it's such an investment that the video part until I signed the deal with Netflix, I don't think I made near the money back in just video that I did in buying all the equipment to shoot the video. But it's also it's also marketing, right? It's again, we're in an attention economy, and if there are going to be clips that exist out there, I want to be part of those clips. So we've been clipping for a long time, um, and a lot of my shows again are losing money. Well, I guess I'm losing money in the video part of the world, but now we're understanding how to monetize YouTube like super strategically. But the video part has been something we've been doing for probably 7 or 8 years. But you're right. When you first set up cameras to podcast, it was weird because it wasn't being done all the time. And it just felt like someone was looking in your window while you're taking a shower because it's so long form. Like podcasting is so vulnerable in long form. And yeah, I think that's the struggle with a lot of people whenever they start recording themselves in long form because there's really nowhere to hide.
yeah.
Because if you're recording a story, like if I hold up my phone and
Yeah.
I'm recording a story, it's 20 seconds. I do a reel, minute and a half. You can stop. You can start over. When you're filming a whole podcast and it's an hour, hour and a half, there's really nowhere to go. you're just there and you're not going to walk over to the cameras and start them over. So I love that. I love that people are embracing long form content on these streaming platforms now. Like for me, that's so much fun, and it's extended the brand internationally, which has been pretty wild to get a lot of DMs from a lot of these countries that watch my podcast on Netflix now. So that's been really exciting. But you know, just to give people that kind of 3D
Hmm.
look and feel, and they feel closer, they try to know you. And long form audio is such it's an intimate space anyway, because my job has always been I want people to feel like they know me. And the best way for me to do that is to get them to listen to something long form. And now getting them to listen and to watch, if I can convince them to do either, that's the victory for me.
Yeah, appreciate that. Now, I that's a lot of talking, a lot of content. So is basically and you're interested in a lot of things. So I guess what I'm saying is, since you're interested in so many things, how does like your show not turn into like a Joe Rogan thing where they're asking about conspiracy theories for 3 hours? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so on my phone, I'll bring this back up. So I keep notes of all my shows. I have like 6 different shows I do during the week, and I keep notes for all the shows and keep them all separated. And each of them exist really in their own bubble. Like I work for the NFL. I'm a massive sports fan. I work for the NFL. I do a podcast for the NFL with Matt Castle, who played quarterback for a long time
Yeah.
for the Patriots and the Chiefs. And I keep all my NFL notes in that. When we're doing that, we're definitely not talking about the best 25 sitcoms of all time. So I have to focus on staying in lanes because I'm in so many of them.
Hmm.
And so there is a difficult discipline at times to not veer out. I love politics. Like I eat it up. It consumes me and I consume so much of it. It's not what I do though professionally. And so if I were just to start doing content on everything that I personally consume, I'd probably be talking politics, but I don't because I'm disciplined enough to know what people come to me for. Now, there are things that I do talk about. There are issues that I talk about because it's a very personal medium. I do talk about because I grew up around guns. I grew up with guns. I grew up and I have, I think, educated opinions on gun control and who should be able to have guns and loophole. And I talk about that. I talk about anything that doesn't have to be labeled as a political, I would say, right or left. If I can just have a specific conversation about whatever it is that's affecting me more than how it is politically, I'll have that. As soon as it turns into Republican or Democrat, I'm out. But I got to be disciplined to do that. I'm very focused on what we're there to do for each of my shows, and I just try to do that.
That
I
is
think that's a really long-winded answer
no, no, no,
on,
no. No, I appreciate that, Bobby. That's really inspiring. Man,
but it's difficult. It's difficult
yeah.
for me not to do. It's difficult for me not to talk about sports on my radio show.
Oh,
That's
you
not a
don't
sport.
you don't do that.
On the main radio show, the Bobby Bones Show,
Yeah,
almost none do I talk about sports. Now, I love sports and I would, but I have my outlets for that.
yeah,
And so I think what's been great is I've been able to create the outlets for the things that I want to talk about. Like with the BobbyCast, it's very much a culture thing.
right.
And that's the show that Netflix wanted to sign was a culture show with people or just me talking about pop culture or general culture from Nashville. And the only show in Nashville that Netflix has signed so far. And so, I know what they want me for. I also really love doing that. I just got to make sure that I stay in that lane on that show. But if I want to be in a different lane, I have other shows for that. But it does get wearing. I think I do 20 hours of content a week. So, and that's not the prep, and that's not
Ooh,
any pre or post. I think I do 20 hours of content a week, and that gets to be pretty exhausting, and it gets to be pretty difficult not to repeat stories in
sure,
places. So that's
sure.
why I have to folder them up so much and put them all in tabs.
I, wow, that's very responsible of you. And I'm sure Eddie and everybody else that comes on your show like helps with the lift on this, right?
Sure, everyone has their jobs. Mostly though, like on the radio show, I need them to come in and just be themselves because that's what makes me better. And on the radio show, which is also a really large podcast, so
Sure.
um, that show, I'm the only one that knows what we're going to talk about. Me and Mike D, who's my main guy. Nobody else knows what's going to happen. We don't have meetings. There's none of that. Mike and I do. Mike and I talk every night. Mike and I talk every morning, but it's just Mike and I. And then what I need from the rest of my crew is for them just to be focused and go with where we all go together. So there's no preparation as far as here's what we're going to talk about, here's what I need you to say, or there's never even any time to go, here's what we're going to talk about, prepare something to say. I hired a bunch of people on that show that had never done radio. I'd never done a podcast because I didn't want a radio show. I wanted a show that sounded like what now are today's most successful podcasts. So I've got really great people working with me, and we all kind of know our roles now and our expectations, and we're able to do it pretty well, at least to this point.
Well, Bobby, it sounds like an incredible balancing act. And my gosh, it's been fun talking to you, but you said you had people coming over right after this, right?
Yeah, I mean, like 25 minutes or so. But I
Yeah.
do feel like you ever see, I think her name's Red Panda, and she does all the NBA, and she spins all the plates and does all the things.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I feel like sometimes. Like I just and there are times where like this morning I was leaving work and my brain was so tired I was using the blinker in the parking garage. It's one of those times where, and it's a wraparound parking garage where I was so tired that when it was time to wrap right, I was hitting the blinker to go right. There's no blinker needed in a parking garage. You just follow the parking garage down. But I'm fortunate, like my stepdad worked at a sawmill his whole life. I've definitely put in the time and the hours to get better. So I don't think that I'm lucky by any means, but I do think that I have a company that has always supported me even when things happen like me getting fined $1 million by the FCC,
That was a
even when,
funny story. That's a funny story.
now I can laugh.
Yes.
If we rewind a little bit, not so funny. But yes, but I've had a company that has supported me, and I've had a team that has come alongside with me and trusted me. And now it's mostly just trying to add great people. I think the if it's what's my best skill, I think it's adding great people to the group. Because if you can't be a part of the group and you can't like hang and be someone that I want to be around, I'm not going to be around you. And if you can find somebody that you want to be around and they do a great job, man, that's the greatest gift to being a professional. And so I have that team and that staff now. And so I think what I've never said this before. I think what I'm best at is putting great people around me, and so they make me better. And so yeah, I'm always hiring. So anybody, well, come on, I'm looking for you.
I hear that. And going back to the beginning, like I said, I feel like one of your greatest strengths, I'm sure you realize this too, is that people just call you Bobby. Like I was watching your stand-up show. You had the couple that's been on for 20 some years, and you asked the lady, so are these kids his? And she was like, Bobby, like
Yeah.
you're her brother or something, like I just you have you, you absorb the audience and you just yeah, like you're a family, and that's it's really special.
Yeah, I hope that they feel and they can root alongside with me. That's why I won the reality show too. It wasn't because I was good at being a dancer. It's because people felt like I represented them. And I hope that's the case. I don't feel like I've ever been really relatable, and that's always the key. Like, be relatable. That's what they would tell me forever. Be relatable. I've never been relatable because I'm way too neurotic. I'm way too odd to be someone that people relate to right then. I think my story is very relatable about where I come from, and hopefully, people see, what you can accomplish even if you don't come from a lot, if you do a lot. And so I think the relatability there is hopefully people relate, they work hard, they have dreams. I'm doing the same thing. I'm just doing it a little more out in front, and sharing my story and even sharing all the times it doesn't go well. I wrote a whole book on things that didn't go well. I did a whole book on failure, which kind of sucked. So yeah, it's been awesome. People do feel like they know me, and I think that's probably the greatest compliment that I can get if somebody just comes up and starts talking to me like we've known each other forever. It's also very confusing though, because
Yes.
I will go, "Oh my God, do I know this person and why do I not know their name?" And it turns out I've never met them ever,
Right.
but now I never say nice to meet you. That is completely eliminated from any word that would come out of my mouth. It's always, hey, great to see you. Because how you're saying people talk to me, Bobby, so and so, instead of me saying, hey, nice to meet you, and they say, no, we've met before, or they just say, hey, good to see you, because that's always true.
Always true.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's been something I've learned to do better over the last few years.
Mm. Well, how did you find time to write this book anyway, between spinning all those plates?
I wrote that second book I wrote while I was touring. Because I write a lot about not knowing how to do comedy, and I was on the road while I was writing a lot of that book, and a lot of those really difficult nights were right after I finished. I started that second book. Well, I did the whole book. It's called Fail Until You Don't, and I finished
Mm.
it, and my publisher was ready for me to turn it in, and I just did not feel proud of it. And I would not turn it in because something felt off, and I didn't want to promote it because I wasn't proud of it, and they didn't understand. Heck, I didn't understand either. And I think it was because I felt like a fraud because here I am talking about my failures and how very practically on how to basically achieve your dreams, but one step at a time. And something did not feel complete. And I remember, again, therapy has been such a big part of my life, talking to my therapist about it. And I'd spent so much time, I never had a dad growing up. And my therapist was like, you think it's because you haven't written about the thing that you kind of fear the most, which was meeting my biological dad.
Hmm.
And so I went back and wrote that first chapter after I was completely finished with the book. And that first chapter is me reaching out to my biological father, going, hey, uh, let's meet. And I documented that. So the first thing that happens in that whole book is the very, very last thing I wrote, and it made the book feel whole. So I wrote the book while on the road, bombing, doing stand up, and I finished it going to meet my biological dad, which we don't have a relationship even now, but that wasn't the point of it. The point of it was I needed to see, and it's okay if it doesn't work. I needed to know that I had it in me to go and pursue that.
Yeah. Yeah. Dads are, yeah, it's a powerful thing. Even now, like you said, uh, did you have another dad figure growing up?
When my mom met a guy that we call now Arkansas Keith, I was probably 13 years old. So I was already wired, but he was the first like male stability that I ever had consistently. And so they were married for years. I still have a relationship with him. My mom is no longer alive, and they divorced even before she died. But I still have a relationship with him, and he's met and has spent a lot of time with my daughter, who's 5 months old.
Mhm.
So yeah, he was my stepdad for a bunch of years, but he did fill many years of that role. But I had people that stepped in that I'm so grateful for now. I had a youth pastor that stepped in. I had a head football coach um, named Coach Gandalf that stepped in for years. Even when they didn't know they were stepping in, they were stepping in and giving me stability, teaching me discipline, uh, teaching me perseverance, like all these things I think now that I value so much that hopefully I can pass on to my daughter. Like I got from a collection of people that I don't even think fully they knew just how important that they are and were.
Yeah. Um, are you worried that do you have this fear that you won't be able to share enough with your daughter about all the stuff you've been through, and how she can avoid some of the traps you fell into, maybe things like that?
I have a great wife who talks me off of ledges a lot when it comes to things like that because I do. I never had a model of consistency. So I wondered a lot out loud before my daughter was born, can I even do this? Because I've never seen it. And my wife is she is a beacon of consistency. And she's so full of love. And she's been loved so much by her family, which are amazing her whole life. She's loved me. She's the first person that I ever told I loved. That's my wife. And I
Yeah.
was 39 years old. We didn't say that word. But so, in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm 200 years old. And in other ways, I feel like I'm nine, just learning like human skills and how to love. And when I do feel like I'm coming up short or I'm scared of coming up short, the fact that that's really a strength of hers has been so helpful to me.
Yeah. I I really think embracing the day is another big theme here, and I think that man, if everybody could learn to do that, just to well, Bobby, I live in New York, and every day I go to work and I see everybody with on the subway
Yeah.
like they're not getting ready for it. They're not looking forward to it, and just to be able to have the courage to hey, face the day and look forward to it every day, man, that's got to be a good feeling.
Well,
Uh,
I appreciate that.
yeah. Well, anyway, been a pleasure. We went a little longer than they told me we were going to go, but
Oh, I've enjoyed this. Yeah, hopefully I
yeah.
didn't take up too much of your time.
Oh no, it's an absolute pleasure, and I have to go get a yeah. Got a dentist appointment after this, and my God,
Oh no,
listen,
no, not the dentist.
highlight of my day to the low point of my day, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much, and please let me know if I can ever be of help in any way.
All right. And wait, if I ever go to Nashville, like my wife does all the time now, I'll look you up.
Yeah, please do. Great to see you.
All right. Nice to see you.
Yeah, see you later.